Hello, I'm Mandi Cantrell, Youth Services Director at the B.B. Comer Memorial Library here in Sylacauga. During this edition of Library Connection, I'm going to do what I've been doing a lot during our quarantine time here, is I've chosen some books from the children's floor. They are narrative, nonfiction, picture books, and I chose them because they have a wonderful story, I think, that even would appeal to adults and children alike, and they are true stories, and I like learning history in the form of a story, so I think a lot of people do. The first one I want to read is Winnie, the true story of the bear who inspired Winnie the Pooh. When Harry Colborne looked out of the train window, he couldn't believe what he saw. A bear at the station. The train stop would be short, but Harry had to get off and see the bear for himself. Harry hurried onto the platform and sat nearby. "What are you doing here, little bear?" The cub climbed into Harry's lap and licked his chin. "She's for sale," said the man, holding her leash. "I didn't see her until after I'd shot her mother. I don't want her. I can't care for a bear." Harry could care for a bear. He was a veterinarian. "How much?" Harry asked. $20. The train whistle blew, and Harry decided. He paid the man, picked up the cub, and carried her onto the train. Harry's friends asked a million questions, but the captain asked the loudest, "Harry, what in the world were you thinking?" "That I had to save her." The cub rubbed her back against the captain's legs. The captain patted her head. "I'll care for her, sir," Harry said. "I'll feed her condensed milk. She can stay with me in camp. Winnipeg can be our mascot." "You've already named her?" asked the captain. "Yes, sir, after our company's hometown." "Well, Winnipeg," the captain said, "welcome to the Army." By the time they reached the military training camp at Valcartier in Quebec, Winnipeg had been shortened to Winnie. Harry's job was caring for horses that would be needed for battle. Winnie's job was being Harry's shadow. While Harry listened to a horse's heart, Winnie nuzzled its muzzle. If the horse snorted and scared Winnie, Harry cuddled her until she stopped trembling. Winnie's favorite game was hide-and-seek biscuits. Using her long claws, she pulled hidden biscuits from Harry's pockets. "Good girl," Harry praised when she succeeded. Sometimes Harry went places where Winnie couldn't. Then other soldiers cub-sat. They photographed Winnie. They took her for walks. But no matter where Winnie went during the day, she slept under Harry's cot every night. One morning, while Harry tied his bootlaces, Winnie grabbed the tent pole. The tent walls shook. "Winnie, no!" Harry shouted. After that, Harry let Winnie climb small trees, but he always held her leash so she couldn't climb too high. A month passed. Then the captain received bad news. The war across the Atlantic Ocean is getting worse. More soldiers and horses are needed. We must leave Canada and go to England. The ships will be leaving in a few days. Harry couldn't leave Winnie. "Sir, she must come with us." And the other soldiers agreed. When the horses and soldiers boarded the SS Manitou, so did Winnie. Winnie was a good sailor. Harry wasn't. He lay seasick in the ship's hospital. While he was sick, Winnie played with the other soldiers. But she ran straight to Harry as soon as he was better. In England, Harry, Winnie, and the horses traveled to a new military camp. For 7 weeks, Winnie watched soldiers practice marching. She heard gunshots when they practiced shooting. Still, Every night she slept under Harry's cot. One day the captain said, "The war is even worse. We must go to France and care for horses that get wounded." On a battlefield, Winnie could be hurt or even killed. Harry didn't want to leave Winnie, but he couldn't take her to France. He thought long and hard. Finally, Harry contacted the London Zoo. "Winnie, the zoo has a brand new place called the Mappin Terraces, which is built just for bears. Zookeepers know exactly how to care for a bear." The ride to the zoo was long. Winnie sat on Harry's lap. She wiggled on the seat. She scratched at the door. Harry was relieved when he and Winnie got out at the zoo. A zookeeper escorted Harry and Winnie to the Mappin Terraces. Harry removed Winnie's collar and leash. She climbed over a rock. She sniffed 2 brown cubs. She lapped condensed milk when the zookeeper offered it. Harry was satisfied. "Winnie, I'll visit whenever I can. When the war ends, we'll go home to Winnipeg." Harry hugged Winnie goodbye. Winnie and the brown cubs became fast friends, but the big Himalayan bear she approached wasn't so friendly. He swatted at Winnie. Winnie ran as far as she could. The zookeepers were worried, but even the grumpy Himalayan bear couldn't resist Winnie. Within a few days, they were playing tug-of-war with a stick. "We've never met a bear as gentle as Winnie," the zookeeper said. "They trusted her so much that they sometimes let children ride on her back." Harry visited Winnie whenever he could, but the war lasted 4 years. During that time, the zookeepers took good care of her. Winnie had many friends. In 1919, just before Harry returned to Winnipeg, he made another hard decision. He decided that Winnie would stay at the London Zoo permanently. Harry was sad, but he knew Winnie would be happiest in the home she knew best. One day, when Winnie was nearly 11 years old, a little boy visited her. "Oh, Bear!" cried the boy, whose name was Christopher Robin. He hugged Winnie and fed her milk. The boy's father, a well-known author, watched his son laugh and play with the bear. All the way home, Christopher Robin talked about Winnie. At bedtime, Christopher Robin and his teddy snuggled under the covers. "Would you and Edward Bear like to hear a story?" asked the boy's father. "Yes," said Christopher Robin, "but Edward has changed his name to Winnie the Pooh." "Once upon a time," said his father, "a bear named Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest." More stories followed until one day they grew into a book. After that, the real Winnie became even more famous. Although more people came to see her, Winnie's everyday life remained normal. The zookeepers treated her kindly. Friendly visitors scratched her back, and gentle children spoon-fed her milk. For Winnie, this was the best way to care for a bear. I think this is a wonderful story. And now you're looking at some pictures of Harry, the soldier who bought her. And there's a statue in front of the London Zoo kind of commemorating that event. There's also a picture of A.A. Milne and his son Christopher Robin with his Winnie the Pooh teddy bear. And there's a picture of Christopher Robin with the real Winnie. He is feeding him or petting him or something at the zoo. So I think this is just a wonderful backstory to A.A. Milne, the author of Winnie the Pooh, and how he and his son Christopher Robin kind of invented this story. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this story. We're going to pause for a commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes with a couple of more stories. Thank you.
While you're at home with family for the next few weeks, don't put off scheduling home repairs. Call Ox Foundation for a free estimate. With more time at home, you tend to notice things you haven't in the past. Mold and moisture in your basement or crawl space, uneven driveways, stair-step cracks in your exterior brick, uneven floors and doors. If your home is showing weakness, it's time to get strong. How strong? Ox Strong. Stay strong, Alabama.
A funeral service represents a family's final farewell to their loved ones. Knowing this, we go beyond what is expected to ensure the ceremony is beautiful and memorable, a truly fitting tribute to that special life. We invite you to visit us to meet our staff and tour our renovated facility complete with a new dining area and catering services. We've been serving the people of this area for over 40 years, and we think that you'll be pleased to find that making lasting impressions remains our first priority. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.
We're facing unprecedented times, and prayer and positive thought are antidotes for our anxiety. Please continue your prayers for our medical profession, our leaders, our first responders, and those afflicted with this virus. My name is Mark Ledbetter, president of the Coosa Valley Ministerial Association, and I encourage you to reach out to local pastors for any spiritual or emotional needs. God will see us through these trying times.
Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our knowledgeable pharmacists are always available for questions about your medications or advice on taking over-the-counter products and supplements. Our friendly staff can assist you in choosing from our full lines of compression hose and medical equipment. And don't forget our gift department. We have a great selection of unique gifts for every occasion. Stop by and see us today. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Welcome back to Library Connection. I'm Mandi Cantrell, sharing some of the books from the children's floor, but I think that children of all ages, adults too, will find these very fascinating books. This next book is called The Wolves Are Back. It's by Jean Craighead George, and the paintings in the book are by Wendell Miner, and they are absolutely beautiful. This is a fascinating story about Yellowstone National Park that I ran across just a few years ago and then found we had a book on it, so very interesting. The wolf pup pricked up his ears, pattered out of the den, and followed his father down the slope. They jogged through the lush grasses to the bank of the Lamar River in Yellowstone National Park. There they came upon the carcass of an elk their pack had felled. The wolves are back. The pup watched his father eat. Then he too tore off a bite. 2 ravens stuffed themselves. A golden eagle carried off food for her eaglets. A grizzly bear sat nearby, waiting for the wolves to leave so she could eat in peace. 3 magpies snatched quick bites. Mice chewed on calcium-filled antlers. 2 sexton beetles buried a piece of meat to eat later. The valley was sharing food again. The wolves were back. Where had they been? Shot. Every one. Many years ago, the directors of the national parks decided that only the gentle animals should grace the beautiful wilderness. Rangers, hunters, and ranchers were told to shoot every wolf they saw, and they did. By 1926, there were no more wolves in the 48 states. No voices howled. The thrilling chorus of the wilderness was silenced. The wolves were gone. The deer, elk, antelope, the gentle animals, looked beautiful in photographs. They wandered in tranquil herds. Peace reigned in the American wilderness. The wolves were gone. Time passed. Visitors to wild America yearned to hear wolves. When they learned that no wolf had ever attacked a person in North America, they urged that the wolves be returned to their home. In 1995, 10 adult wolves were brought down from Canada and set free in Yellowstone National Park. They dug dens and bore puppies. First, there were 3 packs. Then there were 5. In 6 years, there were 21 packs. They howled and sang to each other. Hikers stopped and marveled at the sound. The wolves were back. The pup who had followed his father to eat heard a vesper sparrow sing. This songster had not been in the Lamar Valley for almost a century. The vast elk herds had eaten the grasses the little bird needed for food and nesting material. When the wolves returned, they frightened the elk up into the mountains. and the grasses grew tall. The sparrows raised babies and sang. The wolves are back. The wolf pup heard a flycatcher call. The Lamar Valley had not heard this flycatcher while the bison were there. Bison break and trample young trees to keep back the forest so there will be grass. Now the wolves hunted the bison and drove them back from the river. Without the bison, the aspens grew. With the trees restored, there were limbs for the flycatcher to perch on. They sat there and sang. The wolves were back. When grass and aspen were deep along the riverbanks, erosion was stopped. Willows grew. Beavers arrived and felled the willows, ate the bark, and made dams with the logs. The dams formed ponds. Waterbirds, fish, and frogs flocked to the ponds. Dragonflies zoomed above them. The pup peered ahead. In front of him sat one of the few coyotes the wolves had not killed when they first arrived in the valley. After the wolves thinned out the coyotes, the number of ground squirrels that the coyotes fed upon increased. Ground squirrels were the badgers' main food. Badgers moved back into the valley, now rich with ground squirrels. The badgers ate well and dug tunnels for homes. The wolves were back. The grizzly bears shared the wolf kills and had 2 and even 3 big, fat, healthy cubs. The wolf pup with his father ate until his stomach was round and then followed his father back to their den. They walked through gardens of wildflowers. The wolves had scared the mountain sheep that chew the flowers to the ground up into the rocky cliffs. Flowers filled the valley. Bees and butterflies that fed on the flowers returned. Warblers sang. Hummingbirds brightened the valley. Like pieces in a kaleidoscope, the broken parts of the wilderness were tumbling into place. The wolves were back. The pup grew. He was taught to hunt by his father and mother. He helped take care of the next litter of puppies. Then he left home. The young male went south where he met a mate from the Yellowstone Delta Pack. They trotted side by side into the Teton wilderness and dug a den along the Snake River. They scared the elk away. They scattered the bison. They frightened the sheep up into the cliffs. The grasses grew tall. The riverbank stopped eroding. Willow and aspen trees flourished. Beavers built ponds. Birds sang. Flowers bloomed. The wilderness is in balance again. The wolves are back. I just love this book. The paintings are beautiful. They still track those packs of wolves at the park. The people over the park keep track of how many wolves and how many packs. Right now there are, I think, about 94 wolves in 8 packs, and it's varied. There's been as low as 60 and as many as 100, but they keep track of who the alpha male and the beta female, those type things. They keep track of those to keep it in balance. So I thought this was very fascinating. Now I'd like to make a trip to Yellowstone National Park. Thank you for joining me. We'll be paused for a commercial, and I'll be right back with another good book.
A funeral service represents a family's final farewell to their loved ones. Knowing this, we go beyond what is expected to ensure the ceremony is beautiful and memorable, a truly fitting tribute to that special life. We invite you to visit us to meet our staff and tour our renovated facility complete with a new dining area and catering services. We've been serving the people of this area for over 40 years, and we think that you'll be pleased to find that making lasting impressions remains our first priority. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.
WOTM is the television provider for all Alabama High School Athletic Association championship events and special programs. WOTM is your home for the Super 7 football, state finals basketball, baseball and softball state championships, the AHSAA weekly show, and WOTM also produced the first ever football playoff show, Super 7 preview show, and reclassification reveal show. Your exclusive home for all things AHSAA is WOTM. Contact your local cable provider to request WOTM to your channel lineup.
Things a little bumpy in your driveway? Ox Foundation Solutions has the expertise and the know-how to repair cracks, wet basements and crawl spaces, and uneven floors in your home. Ox Foundation Solutions will come up with the right fix for you. It's time to get strong. How strong? Ox Strong. Get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our knowledgeable pharmacists are always available for questions about your medications or advice on taking over-the-counter products and supplements. Our friendly staff can assist you in choosing from our full lines of compression hose and medical equipment. And don't forget our gift department. We have a great selection of unique gifts for every occasion. Stop by and see us today. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Welcome back. For the last book, it's Sparrow Jack by Mordicai Gerstein. Not all the immigrants that came to America in the early days were people. French dogs, Siamese cats, English cows, Icelandic sheep, and many other animals were brought over to do jobs that native animals couldn't do. Few people know that the common house sparrow, the noisy little brown bird seen everywhere, didn't get to America until 1868, when 1,000 of them were brought from England to do a special job. This is the story, pieced together from scraps of history, old news clippings, and bits of sparrow legend and gossip of how these lively, raucous birds became Americans. Young John Bardsley tiptoed into the English twilight to catch a dozen sleeping sparrows for dinner. It was 1838, and people thought sparrows were greedy, noisy pests, but tasty snacks when roasted. John heard a squeak, squeak underfoot. A baby sparrow had fallen from its nest. Hungry, hungry, it seemed to say. Poor little thing, said John, and picked it up. Instead of killing it, he took it home. John fed it worms and grubs, hundreds of them. How could something so tiny eat so much and chirp for more? The sparrow washed with him, slept with him, and rode around on his hat. It was cheerful, brave, and loyal. After it rejoined its flock, it still came to visit and brought its brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. John never hunted another sparrow. When John grew up, he decided to seek his fortune in America. Jobs and money were scarce in England. A flock of sparrows came to his ship to say goodbye. Will there be sparrows in America? He wondered. It was a long, stormy voyage, and John was seasick all the way. There were no sparrows in America, and John missed them, but there was plenty of work. John became a house painter. One spring morning in 1868, he was painting his own little house in Philadelphia. Something tickly fell down his back. It made him itch. Then it made him wiggle and twitch. He fell off his ladder. Fortunately, he wasn't hurt. An inchworm had fallen into his shirt. He looked around and saw inchworms everywhere. They were eating the leaves off all the trees and bushes and falling down the backs of all the people of Philadelphia, making them all wiggle and twitch. As the inchworms ate the leaves, the trees and bushes of Philadelphia began to die. The birds of Philadelphia, jays, wrens, robins, and thrushes, just turned up their beaks at the inchworms. They wouldn't eat them. The city council hired a small army of men and children to pick the inchworms off the trees. But no matter how many they picked, there were always 10 times more left. No one knew what to do. John Bardsley sat under his dying trees and tried to think of an answer. A squeaky wagon passed. The sound reminded him of something. What was it? Of course, the squeak of a baby sparrow. That was the answer. Bring sparrows to America to eat the inchworms. They would eat anything and lots of it. Bardsley ran to the city council to get money for his idea. Can you promise, they asked, that English birds will eat American worms? I think they will, he said, but I cannot promise. Sorry, they said, and turned him down. Bardsley decided to set off on his own. It was a long, stormy voyage. He was seasick all the way. In his hometown of Ashton, England, everyone laughed when they heard why he'd come. 1,000 sparrows, giggled his parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Please take 2,000. Take them all, insisted his sisters. Thank you, he said, but 1,000 should do the trick. Then he went to tell the sparrows his plans. Dear friends, I've missed you, he said, sitting under a tree where they fluttered and chirped. There's work for you in America. You'll be appreciated and respected. Philadelphians don't eat sparrows. He listened to the chirping overhead and fell into a kind of doze. Did he really hear the sparrows speaking, or was it a dream? He wants us to leave our homes and families, some seemed to chirp. America's too far, others worried. We could never fly back. What do they have to eat over there? Asked a hungry nestling. Quiet, all of you, chirped the sparrow chief. Face facts. We're despised and hunted here. They hate us. It's true, chirped the flock. In America, we'd be needed, said the chief, and we'd all have all the inchworms we could swallow. What are inchworms? Chirped a little chirper. They're small, said his mother, but tasty. All right, crowed the chief. We'll need 1,000 hungry sparrows. Who's willing to go? 1,000 sparrows chirped at once, and all over Ashton people jumped and dropped things. Bardsley leaped to his feet, wide awake. What a dream, he said. That evening, when Bardsley and the town people went out to catch the birds, 1,000 sparrows flew into the nets. They were put in little reed cages and taken by wagon to Liverpool. A cloud of sparrows flew along to wish them luck. Amazing, said people at the dock as the caged birds were loaded onto the ship and their relatives chirped, goodbye. Despite a long, stormy voyage, the sparrows were cheerful. John Bardsley was seasick all the way. There was no brass band to meet them on the cold, gray, rainy day they landed in America. John protected the birds with his umbrella while they waited for a wagon. He got soaked and caught a cold. All through the winter, Bardsley kept 1,000 sparrows snug and warm in his house. All right, Bardsley said to the birds on the first day of spring, show them what a sparrow can do, and he released them. Everyone in Philadelphia watched to see what would happen. As the inchworms crawled up the trees, the sparrows built nests. They laid eggs while the inchworms began eating the new leaves. They're worthless, wailed the people of Philadelphia. The sparrows sat on their eggs and ignored the worms. Then the baby sparrows hatched, squeaking, hungry, hungry. Their parents flew out and began collecting inchworms by the thousands and stuffing them into their chicks. Amazing, cried the people of Philadelphia. They watched the inchworms disappear. Everyone was happy. The sparrows, the Philadelphians, and of course, John Bardsley, who from then on was called Sparrow Jack. He liked the name. Philadelphia was never again bothered by inchworms, but many people began complaining about these noisy little pests, the sparrows. The sparrows didn't mind, and neither did John Bardsley. He had his sparrow friends around him again, and for him, they were very good friends indeed. Thank you for joining me on Library Connection. We'll see you next time.